Marketers spend fortunes optimizing the call to action, but the sales decision is already secured or lost in the first 5 seconds a user spends on your page. What if the entire success of your funnel hinges not on what you say, but on what you show before your message even lands? In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the science of pre-suasion and explore that critical, almost invisible window of opportunity. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with what I call the 5-second paradox, why that first glance is, well, everything. Then we'll dig into the attention scarcity crisis, which is really the reason this is also important today. After that, we get to the heart of it, the pre-suasion engine, and the science behind controlling the user's frame. Then we'll turn all that theory into a practical mastery framework you can actually use. And we'll wrap it all up with the most powerful idea of all, how you can win before you even start talking. You know, this quote just nails the biggest blind spot in conversion optimization. We pour so much time and money into the logical stuff, the button colors, the perfect headline, the checkout flow. We kind of assume the user is this rational person, carefully weighing the pros and cons. But the science tells a totally different story. The real battle, the one that decides everything, is won or lost in a subconscious flash. It's this silent, instant judgment that happens before we even get a word in. And that silent judgment brings us right to our first big idea, the 5-second paradox. See, when we look at a high bounce rate, we think, oh, our message must be wrong. But the paradox is that we're looking in the wrong place. It's usually not about someone consciously rejecting your offer. It's about a much deeper, almost primal mismatch. The problem isn't your argument. It's the psychological room you put them in the second the page loads.
5 seconds. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? But in the time it takes you to take a breath, a user's brain is running this incredibly complex subconscious scan. It's asking a whole series of lightning-fast questions. Is this place safe? Is this for me? Is this worth my time? And the decision to either lean in and learn more or just hit the back button and forget you ever existed is made right there, often before they've even consciously processed your beautifully crafted headline. The brilliant behavioral scientist, Dr. Robert Cialdini, actually gives this phenomenon a name. He calls it a privileged moment. And just think about that phrase. It's not just any moment, it's privileged. It's this tiny, fleeting window where a user's attention is at its absolute peak. And because their focus is so intense, they become uniquely suggestible. So your job in those first 5 seconds isn't just to grab their attention. It's to aim that focused attention, to set the stage for everything that comes next. And so this just forces us to ask this massive question, a question that really gets to the core of this whole thing. Have we been optimizing the wrong part of the page? We obsess over clicks and scroll depth, things that happen after that first impression. But what if the real point of leverage, the place where we can have the biggest impact, is in engineering the psychology of that first silent moment? What if the game is decided right as the page loads in a subconscious evaluation we've been completely ignoring? Okay, but why? Why is this 5-second window so brutal? How did we get here? Well, that brings us to the backdrop for all of this, the modern attention scarcity crisis. The problem isn't exactly new, but its intensity in our digital world has completely rewritten the rules of persuasion. You know, this timeline really tells the whole story. Just think about old school sales. A salesperson had time. They could build rapport, shake your hand, read your body language, and build their case over minutes, maybe even hours. The digital age, with a smartphone buzzing in all of our pockets, didn't just speed that up, it completely shattered that model. We are drowning in information, and our brains, as a survival mechanism, have adapted. They've built this ruthless filtering system that demands instant validation. It needs a signal, right now, that this is worth even a tiny slice of its precious limited attention. And this environment of insane scarcity is precisely why Dr. Cialdini's work is such a game changer. His breakthrough idea was this: the most effective persuaders don't just focus on making their message better, they focus on preparing the person's mind before the message even arrives. They engineer the context. They create a state of mind that's already open to their idea. And in our world, that critical moment of preparation, that privileged moment, is the hero section of your landing page. So we get the why. We understand this moment is critical. Now, let's get into the how. This brings us to the core mechanism I like to call the pre-suasion engine. I want you to picture it as a simple, elegant machine that's designed to do one thing: operate within that 5-second window to intentionally shape a user's mindset from the very first glance. This engine is actually incredibly simple. It runs on a super fast 3-step loop that happens in the blink of an eye. Step 1 is Attentional Primes. You show the user a visual or a keyword that instantly lights up a concept like safety or speed in their brain. It's like putting a colored lens over their eyes. This immediately leads to step 2, cognitive ease. Because what they see feels consistent and effortless, their brain gets this comfortable, safe feeling. It's a mental green light. And only after you get that green light are they ready for step 3, conversion. Now they're psychologically ready to actually hear your message. Let's just zoom in on that first step, because this is really the secret sauce. Attentional primes are basically just mental shortcuts. They don't make a big logical argument, they just make an idea easier to access in the brain. The padlock icon is the perfect example. It doesn't give you a list of security features, it just brings the idea of security to the very front of your mind, making it feel more important. In the same way, a picture of someone relaxing doesn't prove your product is easy, it primes the concept of ease itself, so you see everything else through that lens. And the whole point of these primes is to create a state called cognitive ease. This is, simply put, the brain's happy place. I mean, think about it in your own life. When something is clear, simple, and easy to get, it just feels right. We are wired to associate that feeling of ease with things that are good, true, and safe. A user who is in a state of cognitive ease has lowered their guard. Their skeptical filter is down. They're not on the defensive anymore, they're leaning in. This isn't just a nice little bonus. This is the psychological state you absolutely have to engineer.
But what's happening under the hood? What's the deep science that makes this engine purr? Well, that takes us into our 4th section, where we're going to look at the behavioral science of controlling the frame. This is where we'll see how one single, well-chosen image can completely reroute a person's entire decision-making process.
So this engine is so powerful because it hacks 3 fundamental quirks of the human mind. The first is attentional focus. Cialdini discovered that whatever we're paying attention to at any given moment gets an outsized sense of importance. So when you show a picture of a smiling customer, you're not just showing a picture, you are making the concept of happiness the most important thing in that user's mind. This leads directly to the second principle, visual anchoring. That first image becomes an anchor, setting the terms for everything that follows. The user now subconsciously evaluates your entire offer through that lens of happiness. And third, this all triggers a powerful mental shortcut called the Relevance Heuristic.
Let's break that heuristic down because it's so important. Psychologists like Daniel Kahneman taught us that our brain has 2 gears. System 2 is our slow, logical, analytical mind. It's great for solving math problems, but it's also really lazy and burns a ton of energy. System 1 is the opposite. It's fast, automatic, and runs on gut feelings. It's designed to save energy. The Relevance Heuristic is a classic System 1 shortcut. To avoid doing the hard work of actually analyzing your page, the brain asks a much simpler question. Does this feel right? And the visual primes you use are the direct answer to that question. A clear, positive prime gets an instant yes, which tells the brain it's safe to move forward without having to wake up its skeptical, energy-hungry big brother, System 2.
And that right there, that's the master stroke of this whole approach. It doesn't try to fight skepticism head on, it just sidesteps it. By controlling the very first thing the user sees and focuses on, you get to set the terms of the entire conversation. You're not trying to convince a skeptical mind. You're creating a receptive mind that's already primed to agree with you. You're fast-tracking the path to trust before you've even made your pitch.
Okay, so that's the science, that's the theory of why this works. Now, let's make it real. Let's make it actionable. This brings us to the mastery framework, a simple 3-step guide for actually applying these ideas and engineering that critical first 5 seconds.
Here's the playbook. 3 simple steps. Step 1, identify the prerequisite. Before you touch a single pixel, you have to ask, what is the one single belief a user absolutely must have in order to convert? Is it, this is safe? Or this will save me time? Or this will make me look good? You have to pick one dominant idea. Step 2, anchor the frame. Now choose a hero image that shows the outcome of that belief. And this part is crucial. You don't show the product, you show the result. If your prerequisite is saving time, don't show a screenshot of your software. Show a picture of someone enjoying their free time because their work is done. And finally, step 3, enforce ease. You have to be absolutely ruthless about simplifying your copy. Your headline and subheadline have to be understood in a single glance. Every word that isn't essential has to go.
And this slide just shows you the difference in black and white. Look at the column on the left. Synergistic platform, next-gen algorithms. The brain actually has to stop and work to figure this out. It creates friction. That's high cognitive load. Now look at the right. finish your work in half the time. It's simple. It's focused on the outcome. It's effortless. That's high cognitive fluency. That is the language of Pre-suasion. It feels easy. And because it feels easy, it feels true. So all of this, it brings us to our final and honestly the most profound insight of all. It's the core philosophy behind this entire strategy, winning before you start. And this isn't just a tactic, it's a completely different way of thinking about influence. So, what's the ultimate lesson here? It's that user attention isn't something you just capture. It's a resource that you must control and direct. The most powerful work in persuasion doesn't happen in the sales pitch, but in the silent setup that comes before it. By carefully engineering that 5-second privileged moment, you're priming the user for trust. You are effectively winning the argument before it even begins. And that, right there, is the ultimate goal. The best marketing isn't about having the cleverest argument. It's about creating a psychological context where your solution feels like the only safe, right, and logical choice. It's about controlling the conversation before it even starts.